Delighted to take an opportunity to introduce Shri Amitabh Rajan, Chairman, Reserve Bank of India Services Board. We request Sir to please share his insights on technological transformation of the post-2008 financial world. Sir, please. Please join me in welcoming Shri Amitabh Rajan, Sir, to
feel grown in raised me guided employability years trained number of posts this level opportunity or 6 minutes of death question management government is the genius. Why is it has succeed whether it's civil service is how is it secretary fixed persons answer is seek like management is various cost of exam not in why education imparted to us was imparted to why we is not interesting, sir. And if I have to do for my country, yes, since we should do something else. On the other, and join in arsenal. They are employed. They are getting a lot of salary. They are working in multinational also. They would say, sir, the work is repetitive. I found it very boring. I don't want to do it. Then the third set is also there, and I'll end here. They say, sir, we did very well, for example, in biotechnology. We got, and it's evident, the marks is shown, so it's known. But, sir, the research avenues were very difficult. We couldn't clear the test, and ultimately, even for engineering Government of India examinations, there's a threshold which we cannot cross. And all this put me to a lot of depression. Of course, committees were set up in government, and RBI also asking me to think about it, and I've given a report. They have accepted it. Let's see. Other scene. I had the fortune of representing India in various international forums since I reached the level of Additional Secretary. First opportunity came when, in 2011, India was elected a member in the Governing Council of the International Institute of Administrative Sciences, which is in Brussels. So it's a governing body, India represented. And it is not India by lottery. You have to compete. A candidate is put, and then it is voted. Luckily, I was the only official type who was taken, primarily because of my PhD and the books I had written, articles I had written. There, I got the opportunity of looking at the world and seeing my village, seeing my school, seeing my college, and seeing my country from that perspective. Here was a loaner who worked for 3 years in that institution, off and on. I was doing my work also. And I always reflected how the world is moving, and being a student of economics, a good student of economics, and also teacher of economics after I left college. I started reflecting on my discipline of economics. I had taken first history. I was a science student, physics, chemistry, mathematics in their school. And I'd done well, but I chose to do history because I thought history is not a subject, it's an approach. So there could be a history of technology, there could be a history of finance, and from that angle I had moved. But later on, when I perfected in finance and economics, I had learned number of things in economic theory and so on, which had to be unlearned. 2008, which is the topic here, I come straight to the topic. I'll keep my work time discipline. 2008 was a global financial crisis, which you all know. Issue was different. For economists, policymakers, citizens also, the issue was the type of economics we were propagating in economic theory didn't work. 1990s were euphoria years for Europe and also for America and also for Australia and Canada, thinking that neoliberalism will work, which basically meant that state should shrink, monetary policy should be tightened, and regulation has to go. Feather touch regulation was talked about. Consequences of 2008, not only that, 2009, European situation, the Euro crisis, was a crisis of confidence. And the key example of this was the 75th anniversary of London School of Economics, where all the dignitaries had gathered together, eminent economists, and the Queen of Britain asked a simple question. She said, 2008 had come, Euro crisis we are experiencing, didn't you see it coming? So, post-2008 world, I'll be quick to come back, truth is different. It is a world in which old is dead, but the new somehow is not being built. This crisis has also followed management, because all this preaching, economic trick preaching, was in public policies, in management policy, in corporate policies. And they also had to resurrect themselves. So against cronism, there was a big move through company laws. In India, company laws in 2013 got amended, those who know the details realize how basic things have changed. So in India, if we have to be proud of one thing, we have to be proud of the present status, amended status of Competition Act 2013. Similarly, the work was creating a problem. 2008 is just not financial crisis. 2008 is also a revolution in technology, blockchain revolution. The manifesto which came hidden suddenly, proposing what? Cryptocurrency to begin with. But those who knew realized that cryptocurrency is not equal to blockchain technology, and that's why Tapscott wrote a book which everybody liked in 2016. It was on the blockchain revolution. It was a thought-generating ideas. Similarly, the World Economic Forum came up. It was a forum of individuals who were searching for solutions. And my suggestions would be that we should also look into the dimensions of this. Now, I've talked so much. Let me talk something to the students, because ultimately it is for the students. They have entered. Where will they go? Will they find employment? Will they find exciting employments? Today when I came, talked to you, saw you, I have been traveling all around. I realized that this is the place where things will happen. It will become, I wish and pray that this model becomes replicable model. And the type of persons who were introduced one by one, and their areas of specialization were highlighted to me. Like a drop in the pot, my mind was getting thrilled that yes, this is the thing which should happen. That's how the people, I wish you really the best. But knowledge is not easy to get. There are problems. I will not bore you with the philosophies, but I'll tell you in a nutshell that knowledge is of, I'm talking to students primarily, not to teach you, the teachers. To the students, I would say, knowledge has three dimensions in philosophy, Western philosophy. One is the technical knowledge, the technique, as they say in French. Doing things, getting things, mending things, conceiving things, and ultimately building them. But knowledge also has self-interest, which is the feature of capitalism, which is the feature of the state systems. So Habermas, the greatest living philosopher in the world today, wrote on emancipatory knowledge. What is emancipatory knowledge? Emancipatory knowledge deals with emancipation. Emancipation of what? Not in the metaphysical sense. Emancipation from the structures of society, structures of domination, structures of power, whether it's money power or it's power of politics. And from that, if you take over, we require universities, sponsored institutes, politics-based think tanks. I'm thinking of America model. These will take you up to a level. But if you want to think of emancipation always has to be alert. It has to always got to be cautious. It has always got to be prudent and eminently social, that emancipation has to be. So a person like him, you have heard him, and I know him quite a lot. Though we are meeting for the first time, perhaps, but I've heard of him. He is a person to be proud of. I'm talking about your Vice Chancellor. Because when a person grows, he realizes that there are tremendous problems. First of all, the problem of legacy. The problem of legacy, I'm talking intellectually now. The problem of legacy is that even though you have worked under Lawrence, and we all know Lawrencium, and who doesn't know him? Or even if I have learned under, say, a great philosopher of technology, Habakkuk, who was teaching me in Oxford. So if you get mesmerized, first reaction is to get mesmerized. Here's a youngster, he's overbold, but later on you realize that no, not really. Things are a bit different. Others are thinking differently. So although you revere the person, and that is the beginning of learning, it makes you humble. You have to grow out of it. You have to have personality which will also see the person as a thing. It's very clear. And that initial stage is moving exponentially. Now question is, how do management system cope with it? How does the financiers, the persons with the pocket of money, lot of money, would listen to it? And how populism will be countered through emancipatory ethics? That's another problem in democracy. Therefore, to the students, I'll suggest 5 books they must read when they enter. In Vedanta, it is said there is a prasthan Trayi. What does it mean? Prasthan is the beginning of learning, and Trayi, of course, is 3, and 3 things you have to learn, master, to go into nitty-gritty of the whole thing, without which you will understand nothing. Similarly, I say, in the field of technological transformation of post-2008 financial world, which is my topic, longish one, 5 books a student must read. And today is the date when you should get these 5 books and read it. How is it that I am suggesting it? It's because of my exposure. When you go to Europe, when you go to attend meetings, you go to countries, World Economic Forum, here, there the scholars talk basically with that premise and expand further. Constant reading also gives you a reading. These books are easily available, and they're well written. The first book is Klaus Schwab. Klaus Schwab is a DSC from a country in Europe, and he is the founder president of the World Economic Council. He has written a beautiful book called The Fourth Industrial Revolution. It was published in 2016. I'm not trying to show off my knowledge. These things are well known. But to the student, they should know what not to read and give a priority. Essential reading is Klaus Schwab. It's a short book. It costs 700, if there's a discount less, and they must read it. Because if they don't read, how will they understand the dimensions of, and the book was not written by one person. It is a culmination of thinking since 2011, when Hanover Conference took place, till 2015, when the World Economic Forum took it up. So it's a summary of the intellectuals and anybody who wants to cross-discipline understanding. Suppose I'm not a technocrat. Even then, if I read it, I'll understand the range of issues which are at. Second book is by him only. It's called Shaping of the Future of Fourth IR. You know, importance of the fourth IR is known, but it has to be understood properly, and you should have a view as a student. But institutional foundation of this is also required. So this is step 2. First you conceive, and then you start. Third is coming directly to blockchain revolution, and there's a well-known book by Don Tapscott. It's called The Blockchain Revolution. This also was in 2016. So 3 books are covered. It generates a debate. Not that I agree with him altogether. I have my own views. You will have your own views. But it's like not reading Karl Marx or Keynes. You may disagree with Karl Marx. You may disagree with Keynes. But how can, or Adam Smith, for example, how can you not read it? So you have to read Tapscott's book on blockchain revolution to at least begin thinking and arguing and debating and initiating it. Fourth book is a practical book. You know, Max, it deals with the regulation of fintech and fintech itself for entrepreneurs. What has happened is that in Europe, particularly under the influence of the European Union architecture of things, fintech revolution had a deep interdisciplinary thinking, not only in law, but also in finance and definitely in management. And these countries, some of these countries, have passed excellent regulatory, directive-oriented approaches. These are compiled together, and that book is by Stephen Loesch, A Guide to Financial Regulation for Fintech Entrepreneurs. Regulation is generally discussed, but foundation of this is required. This came out in 2018. That must be read. It is not a cheap book. It is a deep book. And advantage of that book is that within 1,000 rupees or so, by spending 1,000 rupees or so, you can at least know how the world fruitfully is looking at these aspects. And finally, there's a very interesting book. There's a very interesting book, not on smaller things which I have spoken. It was published this year. It's called Money and Power, The World Leaders Who Changed the Economies. It is by Sir Vince Cable. Vince Cable was a minister in British government, but more than that, he was a scientist and a practitioner of management and a professor of very great eminence. He reflected with this argument that economists do not make policies. Policies are made in the cabinets, and therefore it is important to understand what major politicians like Margaret Thatcher, like Manmohan Singh, it's all given, or even earlier Hamilton, they were thinking and they transformed. Whether they transformed for good or bad or ugly, book mentions, a fairly educated person's book. And if you read that, you will capture the history of policy making over 2,050 years. And then you will pick up those 16 who could influence positively and negatively. And it's written very well. It is modern. It has very good remarks on India also, very, very insightful. And it's a book written by a person much elder than me and articulate. It's an interesting book. Anybody should read it. So what I say, what is Prasthanatrayi in Vedantic studies, beginning with this, is also required for understanding the financial world today. It doesn't mean that bibliography is not needed. It doesn't mean that the teachers are not needed. What it basically means is you must finish. A very good thing was mentioned yesterday when we were sitting down for a small dinner. Point was, let's get rid of the handouts and summaries. Problem is that in this digital area, people express anything. They are very good, articulate, but they're not telling the correct points. It's anti-people. It's wrong. It is not sustainable, and therefore creates a lot of confusion in the mind of students, because I keep asking questions with people, younger people, educated people, and I realize that somehow the point is missed. Even among the bureaucrats who are at a very senior level, this problem continues. I mean, the empanelment committee of secretaries to judge these persons. So ultimately I found that the knowledge level is deep but misdirected. These things will not happen. And that's why you see all sorts of policies. Even court judgments, some of the court judgments on technological subjects. On cryptocurrency, there was a judgment by the Indian Supreme Court. Bulky, hard work, but ultimately guided by a lobby. Not that they are dishonest. They are very honest. They take up these matters, summarize very well, listen to the arguments, interpret constitution. When it comes to delivery, no. Problem is that there is no substitute to an expert in any field. We can do nursing in a hospital. We can do critical supply of material. But ultimately, the operation has to be done by the surgeon. There may be an anesthetist. There may be some interdisciplinary person here and there, person with a common sense. So here, as the world is becoming complex, education is in tatters, basically. And incidentally, the best brains are not going to education. That's another story. In our days, even our teachers were respected. Now the teachers are marginalized, and even the television space has been captured by the backbenchers, not by the front benchers. Earlier in AIR days, even though the media was controlled, you'll hear a talk on Israel-Indo relationship by a professor of JNU or a professor of Burdwan University or some such person. Now, these scholars do not go. They do not go because they don't want to substandard discussions. And they also, because people have stopped reading original books, problem is that they will not understand even what the person is saying. I'm deeply grateful that an excellent talk was given by me. It has given solution to many of my questions which I had in doubt. We are critical persons. We are very critical of emergency. We are very critical of various things, India's position elsewhere. But somehow we realize that the money which is being spent by the parents somehow is in difficulty. But this is a place, and of course there are others also, but this is one of the rarest spaces where I sincerely feel things are a matter of hope, a matter of only students have to work hard. They're saying in Amar Kosh, Kak Cheshta, Vakodhyanam, Shwana Nidra, Tathaivacha, Alpahari Grahtyagi, Vidyarthi Panch Lakshanam, Arthat, Kak Cheshta. Like a crow gathers from various places the food he has to consume. Knowledge also has to be always gathered. Even from a student you can get, even from a situation you can learn that Kak Cheshta, the effort of a crow, as they say. Crow, ugly, but filth he collects. But we are not supposed to collect filth, but we can learn our lessons, do that. Vakodhyanam, obviously understood. Keep maximizing the opportunity which has been given to you. For that, you have to be grateful to your parents. Marcus Aurelius, who wrote Meditation, begins with thanks to the family, various people, teachers, and so on. So when I read it, I asked a friend of mine who was a philosopher, why has he given so many details about his legacy which he inherited? He said, not out of flattery, the philosopher friend answered, not out of sycophancy also, not out of a show to people about the descent he has got, is gratitude. Because gratitude is the first virtue in research also. Because all those who wrote before you, whether you agree with them or not, they are good. And while you can make your point ultimately, you don't have to be bitter about it. So we may capture debates, but while doing so, a language which is required, which is academic and which has to be understood. Lastly, in the board of directors of companies, I have noticed one thing. there is a phenomenon of financialization. What it means basically, that the guy who is a financial advisor or the finance clerk or whatever has greater power than the tech person. Tech will come with a proposal, and the clerical mind will see it differently, use all sorts of venom to scuttle it, or to create a lobby from the holders of purse that this is not a worthwhile project, arguing that this excellent opportunity which he is showing in his presentation is not really sustainable. Well, we all know tech projects are not sustainable always, but that doesn't mean that we should ignore them. There are a number of literature on that, and those who know, I'm not giving a lecture to experts. So there is a talk of mine in OP Jindal University on 11th of November on this aspect. So it'll come on YouTube. There I'll be talking these details. But again, respecting is very important. But what is happening is demeaning. There's a politics of mediocrity everywhere. That has to be really taken care of. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot.
Sir, we thank you for making such a thought-provoking speech. We are really glad to have the amazing and respected guests among us. We hope that you all will benefit from their addressing and knowledge. The best and beautiful things in the world cannot be seen or even touched. They must be felt by heart. Thank you is one such prayer among them.